There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your podcast host and life and business coach, Marci Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code framework that will enable you to wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. When you're ready for more, head to marcibarker.com and we'll chat about your next goal. All right, let's dive in. Hello, my beautiful people. I am here with another one of my guests who just finished my accountability accelerator. Not just, it's been a couple months, but I still feel like I'm on a high from it. After I'm done with my accountability accelerator, I'm always sad because there's some clients who want to continue and there's some clients who are like, I'm good. I'm going to try this on my own. I got some success. But Lindsay's kind of been hovering in the middle because she still is everywhere on my Facebook and my group and all of that. So today I have Lindsay Roberts. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so you guys, Lindsay is like forever going down in history as somebody who helped me make a big change in my business, because when her and I met, you were looking for a business coach, right? Somebody to hold you a little bit more accountable, get you on the right track. And I was like, this girl does branding. I am so due for some new branding. And so let me read Lindsay's quick bio here. I am a brand designer and strategist with over 10 years of design experience and a background in psychology. I collaborate with bold, passionate mompreneurs to uncover the heart of their business so they can show up confidently with a brand that's unique, amazing, and as unforgettable as they are. Love that. I guess I've always glossed over the fact that you have a background in psychology. Maybe that's why I was attracted to you. I was like,
I may have never mentioned it before because I got my degree, like almost 20 years ago. It was maybe, 2007. So 17 years ago or whatever the math is on that. I'm not a math major, but I have a background in psychology. I am hugely interested in why people do the things they do, and how we can influence people by tapping into their emotions. So that is definitely a big part of my branding. So it's not just looking pretty with great visuals, but having that meaning behind them that you're going to make an impact with your audience.
Yes, I love that. One thing that's really common for people to say about me or to me is like I was intimidating to them when we first met. And I think you were one of the people who said that too. Yes?
Yeah.
That you were a little scared.
So, I did find you a little bit intimidating. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me how your first initial thought of me played into the brand that we created. Like what from your professional mindset, like when you're like, who is this girl? Okay, she's kind of like this. How did that make sense as we created both brands? You guys, Lindsay helped me do both things. So I had my Marci Barker brand that I've been doing forever, but Lady Bosses turned into Boss Minded, and it was a big transformation. So yes, how did my first impression play into what we ended up creating?
Yeah, so I'll talk first just like a little bit of how we met, because it was online in another mompreneur space at Mom Group, and I put out a message saying, I need a coach. I knew that I needed someone to really help me narrow my focus on what was most important. And you were the very first person to respond, which I think speaks volumes about you too, right? You don't pause before you take action. You just do it. And then we hopped on a Zoom call together. And yeah, my first impression was a little intimidating because you are so confident. You know who you are, you know your purpose and what you can do to help people. And you're not shy about saying that, right? And that's so the opposite of me. I'm very shy about saying, talking positively about myself. I'm definitely an introvert, opposite to your extroversion. And yeah, it definitely made me first question about okay, is this the right person for me? But by the end of that call, you had zeroed in on exactly the steps that I needed to take and how I needed to take them. And that was immediately yes, that's why I asked for a coach. So then when we got into your branding, I think Vanessa also said the same thing to you. She was on your podcast. She's your copywriter. She said the same thing, that, you are bold, you are, which is my favorite word. That is part of my target audience. I'm trying to attract the really bold entrepreneurs. But your messaging is just so so dialed in. You know exactly who you want to attract and what you want to do. So I wanted your branding to be as bold and like no BS. That's like the thing that I kept coming back to. Like, this is it. Take it or leave it. I don't care if I piss you off. I don't care if I'm not the right person for you because that's fine. There are plenty of people who are, and I just wanted to create that branding that was bold and in your face so that you could attract the right people and forget everybody else.
Yeah, I love that because that has been happening more and more, which it's always a little bit scary to get to a place where you're like, here's all of me. If you don't like me, that's fine. You can leave.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
what happened with the transition of boss minded, because a lot of people don't know. And I actually did make a podcast about it, maybe like 6 episodes ago or something, where the transition was absolutely necessary and while on the back end, I knew it needed to happen, I needed like the front end presence to showcase everything. I just talked to somebody today and she was like, I'm not really on social media a whole lot. And when I checked back in, she's like, what is this group I'm a part of? I don't remember joining this boss minded group. And then she scrolled through and she was like, oh no, this is the awesome group that I've been a part of. And yeah, boss minded makes a lot of sense. So, one thing that I loved about our process together is that you were really good at defining things about me and my brand that maybe I wouldn't come out and say. But what were some of those words that you recognized that maybe I had to catch on to a little bit? Because sometimes you show me things and I'm like, I literally don't care. Like, you just tell me.
Yeah, I mean that was a big part of working with you, at least in the beginning, was I don't care, like I just want this done, like whatever you do, I'm gonna be happy with. And that's fine. I could have just taken it and ran with it and done whatever I wanted to do, but that would be a disservice to you, right? Like I really want to create a brand for my clients that communicates without even having to say a word what you're all about. So I mean that's what design is, or specifically even brand design is visual communication without using words. So things like colors and fonts and even things as simple as like how you've laid things out are going to non-verbally communicate to your audience what you're trying to say. So let me pull that. I should have had this pulled up. Exactly the words that we use to define your brand, because that
Yeah.
is a big part of my process
And
is
while you pull that up too, when you say without words, that kind of scares me because I'm like, what if I could not talk? And it was funny. I was just trying to
yeah,
watch The Little Mermaid again yesterday. She's my favorite Disney princess, Ariel. And she literally
me
goes
too.
without words. And I'm like, I think I really needed somebody exactly like you to be like, here's how we communicate when you don't have the option or the opportunity to talk to people. Like your brand has to speak for you in ways that you cannot do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
sometimes you don't get the opportunity to talk to people. Like I know you are always throwing out your links, like book a call with me, get on a call with me. Cause like me, like once I got on that call with you, once we got to the end of that 20 minutes, like I was sold. Like I knew like this is the person that's going to be able to help me. But you don't always get that opportunity. People are scrolling through social media and sometimes it's literally just color that's going to stop them in their tracks.
Yeah.
So for you, when we talked about your brand personality. So part of my process is a really lengthy brand workbook. You were great because you finished it in like I think like 30 minutes after I sent it to you, but that's
Yeah.
because you already knew these things. So things like what are your core values? What is your personality? Who are your target customers? You already knew that. A lot of my clients are still kind of working through that, but you finished it completely really quickly. And
You
I'm
guys
still
heard
trying to
that.
find
You guys heard that. That's a little I'm patting myself on the back.
well, and that makes the whole process so much easier is when you know that. But sometimes it can be really hard to see ourselves.
Yeah.
Like who are we? Because we're so close to ourselves that our perception of ourselves is not always the same of how people see us. So some of the words that we had picked out for your brand personality were passionate, determined, driven, successful, loving, nurturing, and confident. So I think I usually do narrow those down to like 5 or 6. It can be really hard to create a logo that encapsulates too many things. But for you, like the biggest one was probably driven, bold, passionate. That's all you. And when I'm trying to communicate that without words, for me, the biggest way I communicate that is with color. And so I absolutely loved when you already came to me saying, I love the color red. You were already using red in your branding. You liked the color red, but it may have been like a subconscious feeling, not knowing that red in terms of color psychology represents all of those things already. Passion, determination, boldness, being driven. Red is just the perfect color. So when you said that, I took it and ran with it. Like, we're absolutely going to make red your primary brand color.
Yeah, I really like that. When you say that sometimes you don't get the chance, I just think about the people who are intimidated by me, and that's the end of the story, where
Oh, yeah.
that it's like there was no chance. And I think branding is a lot like that too. You kind of get one chance to make the impression, and it's either going to hit or miss. And
Mm.
then if you're speaking the right language, it pops up again, and people keep seeing me, and then I start to grow on them, and then they're like, hey, I actually want that kind of confidence. Maybe I'll reach out.
Yeah. And
So
that was an intentional part of creating Boss Minded. So, I mean, the really fun part about working on your brand is that you had a whole universe, like an ecosystem already laid out, and we needed to brand all the different parts of that. So Marci Barker was the umbrella part of your brand. That is you. That is not going to change. But then you also have your Boss Minded group, which is full of a ton of female entrepreneurs, not all of which are necessarily your ideal client. So for Boss Minded, we intentionally stepped back and didn't use that bold red passion, and instead chose to choose the purple, which is a little more toned down, a little bit more friendly, a little more focusing on the support side of what you have to offer. And then once they're in the door, once they're in that boss minded community, then you do have the opportunity to speak to them in your posts or asking them to hop on a call. So it was definitely intentional for boss minded to kind of be a little more welcoming and friendly to first
inclusive.
get people into your universe.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It's been a fun journey. And you guys, if you guys have not seen my website yet, go look at my website because I was able to knock all of this out really fast. And Lindsay, too. You guys, when I say that when you work with me, I'm going to find your pace and then I'm going to just make you run a little bit faster. And it was very much like that with Lindsay, where I was like, are we good? Are we good? And she did a great job. She was very realistic with the deadlines and everything, but we knocked this out. So let's shift this conversation to the accountability accelerator because
Sure.
you were one delivering for me, but you were also like getting your business organized in a way that you were really looking for. So tell
Mhm.
me how you first started out in the accelerator. Were you overwhelmed? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Or were you like, I'm good. Let's run with
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Now I have a plan.
I'd say I probably went into it pretty clueless. Like, I am still within my first year of business. My business anniversary is the end of December, December 28th. So everything is still kind of like a mess. I'm flying by the seat of my pants, figuring it all out. And the reason I wanted a coach was to help me narrow my focus and figure out which steps are actually going to get me to the next point. Because I remember when I had a call with you, as I said, I have like 8 different goals and I don't know what to focus on. So you helped me narrow down like, what is my goal? What is most important to me? And yeah, I went into it, like I say, clueless, and I probably should have been a little more scared than I was. Because it definitely was a kick in the pants and a little intimidating, especially being surrounded by other women in business who are further ahead than I am, like several years into their business and have bigger goals that I knew that I wouldn't be able to achieve. Yeah.
Hey, my beautiful people. The message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's completely free. All you got to do is take this quick action. I've recorded my entire audiobook and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcibarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. I think that one thing that I told you multiple times, like whenever we went over your brand videos that you made for me, I
Mm.
was like, this girl knows her stuff. Like, and you're so proficient in what is it? Adobe? What program is that?
I use Adobe Illustrator mostly.
Illustrator.
Yeah.
So she'd just like move stuff around and shift the letters and change the colors. And I just was like, wow, this is amazing. And I think there was probably some part of the conversation where I was like, you got to stop acting like you're new at this. You clearly know what you're doing. And I think that I was just writing an email for my accelerator wait list. And in one of the emails, I'm asking people, is it me or is it you? Like, is that the reason you haven't taken action? Like, is it something about the program or me that you're
Mm.
unsure of? Or is it straight up like you know that you're holding yourself back? So, how do you feel like your confidence has increased from when you started to now?
Absolutely, my confidence has increased in terms of knowing I can do this. Your project was the largest project I'd ever taken on, because it wasn't just your brand. It was so many, all the different little pieces of your universe that I wanted to create. But being able to be in the program and meet once a week and honestly show up and say, this is what I achieved, and here are the commitments that I didn't quite hit. Because there were definitely weeks that I came in missing some commitments, and I would go into those feeling really nervous to tell you in the group that, yeah, I didn't hit my goals this week, but here's what I did do. And I think that I was worried about being met with disappointment or less than positive attitude for having missed those goals. But what I found from both you and the group, that really all I received was grace and support and advice of how you can achieve it next time. Like maybe you need to break your goal down into smaller pieces. So just having little wins built up over time, even though they weren't as big as the wins that I was shooting for. I think one quote that I came back to was, shoot for the stars even if you miss, or shoot for the moon even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. So I did set these big goals. I didn't hit all of them, but having that consistent wins paired with the support and positive feedback from you and the group, I think has really helped me build my confidence.
Yeah, I love that. And proof of success. Like as soon as we were
Yeah.
done, I was like, okay, Laurie's coming to you. Okay, Ashley's coming to you. Okay, things are happening. So I really like that. Out of all the steps of the accountability code, I won't quiz you because
Oh, you could quiz me. I know
okay,
them.
you do. Sometimes like everybody should know these like the back of their hand, but not everybody does that. So
Yeah.
I'll say them for listeners again. But first is reflection, humility, and planning. That's the wake up part. And then showing up is implementing, commitment, and feedback. So out of all the steps, which one do you feel like you understand better now?
Ooh, that's a good question, because I wrote down which ones I was the best at, and which one that I had the most difficulty with. But the one that I understand the most, oh gosh, planning. Probably I understand the most. Like I love to plan. I can plan all day. It's a matter of actually doing it. So I understand the parts of like breaking down a goal into steps, or what I want to achieve. It's more of the showing up, the doing, the commitments. That's what I have the most trouble with, is staying committed.
Yeah, yeah. So in the accelerator, we talk about how to overcome resistance to each of the
Mm.
steps. What was your key, would you say? And do you have your personal code of
I
accountability
do,
pulled
I
up?
do have it. Let me pull it up.
Okay, because what I love the most about the accelerator is this piece of paper that everybody comes away with individually for themselves. So I'm curious to revisit your personal code for accountability, specifically on commitment.
Mm.
Now, what does that say?
So my commitment literally says, I will write down my commitments in one place and assign a due date, because I thrive on a due date. If I don't have a due date, I won't do anything. And I make my commitments known to another person and then follow up with that person on the due date. And just reading that, I'm smiling to myself, because I
Yeah.
realize that I'm not doing it. I do have them written down, but I'm not communicating with anybody else since we've left the accelerator, and I'm not meeting weekly with other women to talk about whether or not we've met our commitments. I'm not really sharing them with
Yeah.
anybody. So
Well, that's good to know because my next one's coming up again.
yep.
But I think you hit on a really good point because even for people like me who are experts on accountability, I know that I thrive in certain situations. Like I have a gym membership and when I had to take my kids to school in the morning, I'd go to the gym. And now that my daughter can drive herself, I'm like, I'm probably not going to go to the gym in the same circumstances. So my commitment is I'm going to go to the classes because I know I'll see people there. So I think that it's really important to revisit that. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Either how will your personal code change for your
Mm.
circumstance right now, or is it time to step up and find a group again to talk to
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, no, I think that's it is probably stepping up to find a group again, maybe in the accelerator again, because I know successful women who have done your program more than once, because I do think that even though you know the code, actually using and implementing the code, those are two different things. So I know what the code is, implementing it and having that support and that feedback from the group, I think is a game changer.
Yeah. And I will say too, your code is definitely going to change.
Mm,
So the first time that I wrote my personal code for accountability, because you were in cohort number 6,
mhm.
and I didn't introduce creating a personal code until cohort 5.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I wrote mine in 5, it was different than what I wrote in 6. And so I would say if you're in cohort 7, it's going to be different. But I would give you a loving kick in the pants right now to rewrite your code right now. Like, don't wait for your next one, because if there's some part of your code in accountability that is not happening, it means that we have fallen out of that expectation and it just needs to be adjusted so we can say, oh, let me realign these pieces
Mm,
so the follow through becomes easy and peaceful again. So,
yeah.
yeah, because the first time in cohort 5, part of mine was using my plan called How to Use My Time Well. And I used this thing every day and I was doing so good. And then I recognized I was becoming even more strict. And I was like, my superpower was already a superpower. It should
Mm,
not be a mega power, because then I had no flexibility in my need to adapt when the time came. So having learned that, I was like, oh, it needs to shift. As much as I love checklists, I'm like, I really shouldn't be using them every day, because then I forget to be creative. I forget to take rest and things like that. So yeah, I love hearing how things have shifted, because that's life.
mhm.
It's just how it's going to go. So, what are you working on right now? What's been on your mind?
So, like I said, I'm coming up on there are two things happening. There's the anniversary of the start of my business, and I mark that from the day that I started working with a new client, not even realizing that I was working with a client and starting a business. It was just someone who I saw a post online that said, I need a new logo. Help me choose from these five that she had created on, it was 99 Designs or maybe Canva. And this person is someone that I think does amazing work. And I think that she's just a rising star, and none of these logos reflected her
Mhm.
personality or how amazing she is. So I was like, please just let me create branding for you that's better than that. So anyway, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of that. So I'm really excited to kind of go all in on some
Mhm.
of these offers so I can help more moms who are starting businesses to create their own dream lives. I want their audiences to be able to see how awesome they are, because their branding oftentimes just doesn't reflect that. But the other thing that's happening that's really hopefully going to help me launch this is my son is starting preschool in January, January 6th. Because that's one of my biggest challenges right now is working around being a stay-at-home mom. Having a 2-year-old pulling at your leg all day long makes it tough. So he's going to be in school 4 days a week, and I hope to be able to launch some new offers in January. And yeah, make this a real profitable business and not just a hobby while I'm home with my kid.
Yeah, I love that. I remember my kids are 2 years apart. So I had 4 kids in 6 years. And there was 1 year right after COVID that my kids were sixth grade, fifth grade, third grade, and first grade, all the same school, all full time. And I was like, hallelujah, this is my year to
Yeah.
party as in work really hard on my business. And
Yeah.
it makes a difference. It does. So
Hmm.
I'm excited for that. All right. So with your branding and your experience in the accountability code, how do you feel your mindset is different than it was before? Like, how have you found yourself moving forward with integrating the accountability code into your business and your life?
I'd say one of the biggest things that I learned from you in the Accountability Accelerator is to take imperfect action. I am a perfectionist by nature, especially being a designer. Like every single little tidbit has to be so perfect. And what I've learned mostly from watching you and your business and how quickly you move is that it's not, your business doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you're making consistent action every day, you're going to get somewhere. You're going to move further ahead than where you were before. So, I mean, using the accountability code just makes that go even faster. If you can follow a framework of steps of how to achieve that goal rather than just, like I said, flying by the seat of my pants and hoping things work, knowing that following that code, creating a goal and then breaking it down step by step and taking action, whether it's perfect or not, is going to move my business forward.
I love that. One other thing I want to touch on before we end, you bring up the word perfection. And I remember having a conversation with you about that. And I was like, perfection is like something you want your brand designer to have. Like, don't ever get rid of that at all. But let's make sure it's in this portion of your business growth, and let's completely dissolve it in the other areas of your life where it is not a superpower. And I really love what I do teaching the accountability code, because when I explain something to you, it also becomes a truth for me where I'm like, where am I doing that in my own life? Where it's like me being a really good coach, I need to be able to say things how they are because people are depending on that. But like in my marriage or my kids complaining, it's like, need not apply here. Yeah. So I really liked our time together, and I love seeing your progress and your success because, like I said, you go down in history as somebody who helped me in a big turning point in my life and business. And honestly, you know, when you're like, oh, I'm working with the other people who have big goals in the program, it's like, stop. You're just the same as everybody else. Like, you have real big goals. You have a lot of things to celebrate. You have a lot of potential to be fulfilled, just like everybody. So that's my little loving kick in the pants for you.
Aw, thank you. I have to say, I love seeing your branding in use, because once I hand off a brand to someone, it's no longer mine, it's theirs, and how they choose to apply it on their website and in social media and Canva or whatever they're doing it. So, you know, whether it's you, I know your daughter does some stuff. I think you have also like a social media manager or someone who does some Canva stuff. And I know your husband did the website, but whoever's doing it, I just have to say they're doing a wonderful job applying the branding. So whenever I see something branded, it just makes my heart happy.
Yeah, I love that. I tell my clients, you know, there's times where I'm like, I'm taking credit for that, just so you know. Like, when you're so successful, I'm going to be like, I'm the one who made that happen.
Yeah.
So you can totally do that. And I tell Lindsay, you don't brag about yourself enough. I'm like, you should be telling everybody you created Marci Barker's brand and the Boss Minded brand. So anyway, I'm just super appreciative that you took that leap with me, and I think you're amazing. So thanks for being here.
Thanks. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Yeah. And I look forward to continue working with you, because it's motivating and inspiring to see what you're doing and how many women you're helping. And I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Love that. All right, listeners, thanks for listening today. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. Thank you for listening, friends. If you got value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop a review or share this with a friend. Let's be real. Let's spread the word, because we all know someone who could use your loving kick in the pants.